My name is David Demora, and I'm the Director of the Criminal Justice Mental Health Consensus Project of the Justice Center. The Council of State Governments Justice Center is a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization whose constituency, it's been a long day, includes all three branches of government, to whom we provide data-driven policy options. In addition, we are the training and technical assistance provider on behalf of the Bureau of Justice Assistance for the Justice and Mental Health Collaboration Program. I'd like to welcome you to this National Training and Technical Assistance event. We have over 400 attendees that will be coming to this event. In addition to the 62 grantees from 39 states for 2010, we have previous year grantees from 2008 and 2009, as well as other applicant jurisdictions. This event is possible due to the support of the Bureau of Justice Assistance. In addition, I'd like to just take a moment or two and recognize and thank a number of both federal and private partner agencies without whom our work would simply not be possible. First of all, in terms of federal partner agencies, I would like to thank the National Institute of Correction, the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Programs, and the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. I'd like to also recognize our private partner agencies, including the Pretrial Justice Institute, the National Association of Mental Health Directors, the SAMHSA-supported National Gain Center, and the National Alliance on Mental Illness, as well as the National Association of Counties. You'll meet a number of folks from these different organizations over the next 2 days as we do these various workshops. Our event is called Collaborating to Achieve and Communicate Positive Public Health and Public Safety Outcomes. In this time of ever-dwindling resources, the need for collaboration and, equally importantly, the need for effectively communicating the benefits of our work is really greater than ever. Over the next 2 days, we will have, in addition to a number of other excellent speakers that will be joining us, we will have 3 excellent plenaries and 23 we think, really good breakout sessions. The breakout sessions will be led by national experts in our field. Some will be led by expert practitioners in our field, and some will be led by past grantees who've become experts in their area. We believe that this will provide many of you with new information, and that for those of you that it may not be fully new information, we think it will help you think about and communicate what you know now in some better ways. So we're very excited about these next couple of days. We look forward to it. For those of you that we've spent today with, we are looking forward to spending the next 2 days with you. For those of you that are joining us, we'd like to welcome you. I'd like to introduce Danica Szarvas-Kidd from the Bureau of Justice Assistance, who would also like to say a few words of welcome to you.
I'm Danica Szarvas-Kidd, and I am currently a policy advisor at BJA, and until this point I have been I'm an attorney by trade and have worked on the adjudications portfolio, which has covered everything from pretrial issues to prosecution, indigent defense, judicial education, court managers, all kinds of issues affecting the adjudication process. And I've also had the pleasure of overseeing and working on our problem-solving court training and technical assistance project, which has led me to resume this project in my current role. I will be taking over for Rebecca Rose, who many of you know. Luckily, BJA has recognized that she's incredibly intelligent and talented and hardworking and have promoted her. So she'll be resuming a new role, and I will be taking over this project in her place. Luckily, she'll still be within the department, and will still be I will still be able to consult with her on some of the amazing work that she's done. But I'm very excited because I'm just getting started, just getting my feet wet with this project and overseeing the work that you all are doing, and in working with our colleagues at the Justice Center at CSG, and it's incredible. As I shared with our grantees over the last couple days, I've been home sick, especially this past weekend, and had time to really sit in bed and go through a lot of the documents and publications that have come out of this amazing program, and would encourage you also. You received thumb drives as you checked in. they are filled with a plethora of resources that I would point you to. I can personally vouch that they are outstanding for any of those whom you need to educate on any of these issues affecting the justice system and mental health issues. It has been incredibly instrumental for me to have these amazing publications to help get me up to speed. But I do want to provide a little bit of background about BJA and our role in this conference and in this program. Why we're here? Well, we know that the largest institutional provider of psychiatric services are city jails, which is astounding. Every time I hear these statistics, it always catches me off guard. People often ask, BJA, they think we work with law enforcement, we work with corrections, we work with courts, of course, but mental health? What does the justice system have to do with mental health? Well, when you know that over 17% of jail inmates have mental illness and the rate of women offenders suffering from serious mental illness is more than twice that percentage of male offenders, it says something. It says something about our need to not only address the issue, but to take action. And your being here tonight is indicative of that, especially in these tough budget times. We know a lot of travel budgets are being cut and training budgets, and the fact that all of you have shown up tonight is proof that this is an issue that we care about, and we know that the nation cares about as well. We also know that there's an astounding 70% of youth in the juvenile justice system that suffers from mental health disorders, which is too big to ignore, and that's why we're here. We're here to facilitate collaboration and partnerships. We're here to increase public safety by facilitating this collaboration, these partnerships with criminal justice, juvenile justice, mental health treatment, and substance abuse systems to improve access to effective treatment for people with mental illnesses and co-occurring substance abuse and mental health disorders within our criminal justice system. And BJA is in a unique position. For those of you who don't know us, we are the part of the U.S. Department of Justice that works exclusively with state and local communities across the country in helping to improve and support their criminal justice systems. We are the state and local arm of DOJ. And we are divided by policy area, generally speaking. As I introduced myself, I work in the adjudication sections primarily, but we also have programs in corrections, law enforcement, crime prevention, information sharing, tribal justice, and then also the substance abuse and mental health portfolios. And this issue, as I have learned, is really one that doesn't fit into a nice silo like all of those other sort of nice, neat areas. While, yes, there's overlap by all of those substantive policy areas, really this is the one area that touches them all. It's astounding. Even the work of, going back and reviewing the work of past grantees, it's amazing that there are programs that all of you are implementing and enhancing that range from pretrial services all through reentry, spanning the entire criminal justice system, which is amazing. The wide reach, span, and scope of the nature of this problem, but of the nature of this program as well. And the uniqueness of this problem is why it's so important. It's why it's so important that we have buy-in from all different areas of the criminal justice system. What I'd also like to encourage you, just in getting you to start thinking about, is that especially in these tough budget times, the great part about this program and all of you and all of the different disciplines that you work in is that we have an amazing array of grant programs and technical assistance programs that span all of those policy areas. So I would encourage you, I know that all of you or a lot of you have applied for our Justice and Mental Health Collaboration Program grants, and that's wonderful. But we have a wide array of other grants that I would encourage you to look into as you try and supplement and help supplant a lot of the budget cuts that you all have been facing. Especially, I know that a lot of you too are familiar with Second Chance Act grants that CSG is also involved with. But we have grant programs for law enforcement, for crime prevention, court programs, which is my area of expertise. We're going to be rolling out, within the next couple of years, we're formulating a new pretrial initiative, which we don't have dollars for yet, but we're planning for it. We're starting to get our heads together and come up with a strategy of how we can help enhance pretrial services and pretrial diversion programs around the country. And these are all programs and areas that affect all of you, I know. So I would really encourage you to make use of me while I'm here, ask me any questions, and start to think about ways that we can think outside the box, outside of this incredibly large box, but still there are other areas that BJA can assist all of you as well. Like I said, I know that all of you are under extreme budgetary cuts, and we are incredibly sensitive to that and want to assist you in whatever way that we can, whether that be through providing technical assistance and helping you to develop ways to enhance your data collection systems to make your case for why your programs are so essential to save money for your states and localities to keep the prison costs down, because we do know that those with mental illness spend more time in jail and prison than those without, and that is essentially driving up the costs that we're paying for incarceration. And we can help you come up with innovative and strategic ways to help document those problems, to make your case. It's not just about meeting the needs of those with mental illnesses, but it's also about being smart in these times and making your case on a fiscal level as well. So it's a little dismal. We realize that it's tough times and everybody's feeling it. We heard that amongst our grantees today and last night, that folks are feeling really discouraged and they're fearful for their programs, and we're with you and we understand. But we hope that you also come out of this conference with a renewed vigor and enthusiasm for coming up with new and creative ways to try new things, to maybe leverage your resources in a different way that you hadn't expected to before, get creative. And educate your communities. You're all here because you're leaders in your communities in this area. You wouldn't be here if this wasn't something that you felt strongly about and you weren't doing something in your jurisdiction about mental health and the justice system. So you're leading the way. One of the goals of this program is to incubate national leaders, and all of you have that potential. And this is, in times of crisis, this is the opportunity for those great leaders to rise to the occasion. And I just really hope to encourage and inspire you with the great presentations and ideas and experience and knowledge that you'll be absorbing in the next couple days, to take that out and do something with that. That said, I just want to again echo the comments of David and thank those federal partners. I won't list them off again as he did, but I want to give a very special thank you to the Justice Center, and specifically to David Demora and Elizabeth Dodd, who we worked very closely with in getting this conference on its feet. Although there's so many other Justice Center employees who were critical in putting this conference on for all of you, but I did want to give a special thank you to the both of them for their hard work. And I also want to recognize Rebecca Rose. She's been so instrumental in building this program from the ground up, and as she transitions out of this position and into her new position, I'm so grateful. I've come into many grant programs and other initiatives that were quote-unquote fixer-uppers, and that I had to come in and sort of try and save the day where I could and patch it up and see how we can fix it moving forward. And this is one of those that the more I learn, the more impressed and astounded I am at the amazing work that BJA and that CSG has done together in advancing the work that all of you are doing, and whether it be creating mental health courts or reentry programs, everything. The way in which this program has grown and evolved is truly impressive, and I feel so blessed to be stepping in at a time when it's already in such great shape, and hope to continue her work and serve all of you at the same level that she has. So I just want to say thank you to all of you, and I hope that you really do enjoy the next couple of days and leave here with a renewed spirit and enthusiasm, and on a high note instead of on a discouraged one, and know that BJA is here. We care really deeply, which I can't say about all of the federal government on all levels, but I can speak for my agency, and which is one of the reasons I feel so blessed to work for BJA, because the people there really do care about the work that you're doing, and that's our mission, is to support you, and that's why we're here. And I feel good in saying that genuinely and honestly. So tomorrow at lunchtime, feel free, save your questions, anything and everything about BJA. This will be your time to communicate with me and with Nikisha. So, and feel free to come up to me also at any point in the conference. I'd love to meet any and all of you. So thank you again for attending, and I look forward to meeting you. Thank you.
Hello again. It's my great pleasure to introduce to you our keynote speaker for the evening, Tonier Cain. Ms. Cain is a consumer advocate who's spoken nationally on trauma, incarceration, and recovery. She's the team leader for the National Center for Trauma-Informed Care, which provides consultation and technical assistance and training with the goal of really revolutionizing the way that mental health and human services are organized, are delivered, and are managed, while also furthering people's understanding of trauma-informed practices through education and through outreach. Ms. Cain has served as a member of the Protection and Advocacy for Individuals with a Mental Illness Council, and in conjunction with the board, she sets and approves annual program priorities. Ms. Cain is also featured in the documentary Behind Closed Doors, Trauma Survivors and the Psychiatric System, and is the subject of Healing Neen, a documentary based on her life as she moved through multiple systems of care. You will find her talk to be riveting, to be astounding, and to be quite touching. And so please join me in welcoming Ms. Cain for this evening.
I know that you heard my bio, that I'm the team leader for the National Center for Trauma-Informed Care, and that I work for NASMHPD and all these wonderful things that was said about me. But that's not why I'm here this evening. What I'm here to do is try to get you to understand what motivated me to make some of the decisions I made as an adult, and how trauma affected my life, impacted my life. So in order to do that, I'm going to have to take you back in time with me, and what I'm going to do is take you back to my childhood, then I'll bring you up to speed of where I'm at today and what it took for me to become the woman I am today. Now, around age 9, I had created a belief system that I am nothing, I'll never amount to anything, and this is just how it's going to be for me for the rest of my life. See, I knew that some people live in this wonderful house on the hill and have these great families that hug them, love them, and protect them, and some of us just live in the project with an alcoholic, abusive mother like mine, and that's where you stay. You don't try to get out. And at age 9, I was the oldest. I had 8 brothers and sisters at the time, and my mother was pregnant. And she would sometimes just leave us in the household 2 and 3 days at a time without coming home, checking on us, and feeding us. And she had been gone for a couple of days this particular time. And this was an event that led me to believe that I had to be the protector. I'm the oldest. I had to protect my sisters and brothers. So she had been gone a couple of days, and we were hungry. And so I was trying to open up this huge can of peas. A ways back, the government used to issue you these canned goods and a block of cheese. How many people had government cheese before? That was some good cheese, wasn't it? Well, we didn't have any more of the cheese. We just had a huge can of peas. So I was trying to open it the way I would see my mother open it. She would put a knife on top, and she would bang the top down with something hard, and she would open it that way. Well, trying to do that, the knife slipped, and it cut me. And as a child, when you hurt, you want to run to someone to protect you, to take care of you, to tell you it's going to be okay. So I ran out of the building, and I ran 2 buildings down into this apartment where my mother usually hung out at. And when I knocked on the door, they opened up the door, and when I walked to the table where she was seated, she was eating this huge fried chicken sandwich. That's when I was convinced that she's just not going to take care of us, so I have to take care of my brothers and sisters. My mother would entertain a lot of different men at night. Every other night, they would bring her a bag of beer or a bag of liquor. And I would always hear her singing and laughing. Well, when I didn't hear my mother's voice anymore, I knew it was going to be soon that I would hear the footsteps walk towards our bedroom door. And at age now, when I would hear the footsteps, I would jump off the bed because we shared one bedroom, and stand in front of the door to protect my sisters and brothers. But in the event, it made me available to the men, so there was a lot of molestation, a lot of sexual assaults. Unable to go to school a lot because I had to stay home and take care of my siblings. But after missing 2 and 3 days at a time, I was always given my missed lessons and passed off to the next grade, but nobody ever asked why. Why are you missing so many days? What's going on? If there was ever any communication with my mother, there was certainly no consequences because, again, I was always passed off to the next grade. I also started drinking around age 9. Because when you have a parent that's an alcoholic, if there's nothing else in the household, there is alcohol. And I still remember my first experience. It was clear. I don't know if it was vodka or gin, but when I took a big gulp of it, it burned my throat. I remember it like it was yesterday. But you know what? When my mother smacked me down and called me names, it didn't feel as bad anymore. And when the men came at night, it didn't feel as painful or as shameful. So I started to drink to help me to cope with my reality. This is a photograph of me around age 9. This photograph was recovered out of the photo album of one of the men that used to sexually assault me. I don't know how he received my photograph, but my uncle, who was still good friends of his when he passed away, was going through his belongings, came across my picture, and he gave it to me. Again, I don't know how he received it, but I remember getting ready for that picture. I remember standing in the mirror trying to get a straight part to make 2 ponytails, and washing out that red and white connected polyester shirt with a bar of Ivory soap, trying to get it clean, and brushing my teeth. I brushed my teeth a lot, not because my mother said brush in the morning after every meal of that night. I brushed my teeth a lot because I thought if only I could brush away the smell of the men when they used to use my mouth for their sexual pleasure. If I could just brush the smell of them off from me, it might not feel as bad. I might not feel like I deserve it. So I would always brush and brush and brush. But I didn't know anything else about any other hygiene. My mother never showed me how to wash myself or wipe myself or any of that. My nickname in elementary school was Pissy Mean, because I always smell like urine. When you have 8 brothers and sisters sleeping with you, and most of them are babies, you're going to get pissed on, just the reality. Somebody's going to always pee on you. I would wake up in the morning, always brush my teeth because of what happened to me the night before, the thought of what happened to me early in the week. Run out of the house and get on the school bus. And when I would get to the schoolyard, the kids would circle me, and they go, Pissy Neen, Pissy Neen, Pissy Neen. I would break through the circle, run into the school, go into the bathroom, huddle down, and cry. My teacher would come and get me, take me to class, and start the day's lesson, but never asked why. Why do you smell bad? Why aren't you being taken care of? Well, finally, around age 11, somebody had made a complaint to the Department of Social Services, and they had said that whatever was going on in our apartment was wrong because we were always lined up in the windows looking outside, but we were never allowed to go outside and play. And when we were seen outside, we were filthy. So they sent out a social worker to follow up on this complaint. And when the social worker walked into our apartment and seen the filthy conditions we were living in, she immediately removed us from the household. And as you good folks know tonight, there's not one family sitting around waiting to foster 9 kids. It's not. So we were separated, and we were put into different foster care homes, and I was devastated. You see, it was my sisters and brothers that gave me the only reason I had to laugh out loud. The only joy I had in my life was to take care of them, and now they were gone. But you know what hurt it most of all? Being taken away from my mother, yes. Because I wanted to know, how would she ever learn to love me if you take me away from her? I thought I had to continue to do things to make her proud of me, and in all of that, she may develop some love for me, and I didn't know how that was going to happen if I was going to be taken away from her. Well, we ended up being placed with family members. 9 family members came to court after being in foster care for months, and I'll take the older one, I'll take that one, and I'll take that one, and we were sent off to family member homes. My older cousin chose me, and she took care of me. She showed me how to wash myself. She fed me. She combed my hair. The reason why I call her home dysfunctional is because her husband was an intravenous drug user, and I was a bedwetter, and I would wake up in the middle of the night trying to go in the bathroom to dry myself off before I was discovered. And when I would walk into the bathroom, her husband would be laying there where he had overdosed. And I would always think he was dead, and I would go running around the house screaming, your father, he's dead. And I would go get the girls. She had 3 daughters around my age, children. And they would just get out of their beds, and they would walk downstairs. They would go into the freezer, get an ice tray, go back upstairs and stick it down his pants, and he would get up and start all over again. So as loving and nurturing as she was, there was that trauma in the house. But for the first time in my life, I felt safe, and I felt like someone loved me, and I was doing well in school. I was doing my homework one afternoon, and I heard someone call me, Neen. That's what my mother calls me, and I was around age 14. And when I looked out the window, it was my mother. She was walking up the walkway, and I ran down the steps. And when she walked through the door, she hugged me. She said, I love you. I want you to come home and live with me. Up until that point in my life, I could not remember my mother ever telling me she loved me. I didn't hesitate. I ran upstairs, I packed my things, and off into the sunset I went with my mother. Well, by then she had 3 more kids. Social service had given her some more benefits in another apartment. Within 1 week, she severely beat me in the street for trying to go to school. I realized she didn't want me back because she loved me. She needed a babysitter. So how do I live without her? I knew I couldn't live with her, and I desperately wanted her to love me. And somewhere in my life, I don't know who or when, somebody planted the seed, if you take a bottle of pills, you'll die. So I took the bottle of pills, and when I woke up in the emergency room, no one asked why. They talked to my mother, who convinced them that I took an accidental overdose on my own prescribed medication, and I was released back to her. And when I got to, I had to stay in the hospital for a couple of days. When I got to her apartment, she gave me this total look of disgust, like, what am I supposed to do with you now? So she came up with this idea that I can go live with her sister, my Aunt Carol. And I said, no, I don't want to go live with her, because I quote my aunt. She said she calls herself a functional drinker, because what she said, as long as you can purchase it, it's not a problem. Never mind the 14 DUIs this lady had. But when I moved into her house, she said, I'll feed you, I'll send you to school, but stay out of my way. So yet it still gave my mother some control over my life. So when she was drinking one night with a friend of hers, my name came up. And he said he thought I was cute and wouldn't mind making me his wife. By then, my mother had been evicted once again, and she needed a place to live. And he told her, if you get your daughter to marry me, you can come and move in my house. When my mother came to me with this idea, the only thing I would think about was, maybe she'll love me now. This is an opportunity to make her proud of me. I didn't even have to go to the courthouse. She went to the court because I was a minor. She signed the marriage license. I married him. And as you can imagine, I was soon pregnant. But my husband would come home at night, and I would stand in total fear when I see the lights pull up to the window, because I knew once he walked in his house, if he took his finger and rubbed it across the furniture, if it was dust on his finger, he was going to beat me until he seen blood, because he wanted to know what was I doing all day long that I could not dust his house. And that went on for a few years. Over and over again, he would come home and he would beat me. He told me I couldn't go to school no more, and I couldn't even stand outside the house. He would keep me in this home, and he would come home and he would beat me over and over again. So when someone came to me around age 19 and said, try this, it was crack cocaine. It was the answer to all of my problems. See, I never had to feel anything ever again. But unfortunately for me, it introduced me to the criminal justice system. I stand before you with 83 arrests and 66 convictions. They told me I was going to spend the rest of my life going in and out of prison, or I was going to die in the streets. When I would leave a facility, they said, see you when you come back, Cain. And when I came back, I always came back. They said, welcome home. You want your old cell? You want your old rubber room? No one ever said, I really hope you make it this time. But I still didn't know what was wrong with me. They kept calling me crazy, and they said I needed medication. You need help. You're crazy. You need medication. So sometimes I would check myself into our 72-hour mental health unit, the voluntary unit at our county hospital, and it depended upon what day of the week it was. On a Wednesday, I was schizophrenic. On a Thursday, I was bipolar. On a Friday, I was borderline something, and it was usually the same psychiatrist. Never got that. But I will always ask them, well, how do you know? And I would explain to them that I had been up for 7 days straight smoking crack. They never allowed the street narcotics to get out my system before they truly gave me assessment or evaluation. But I guess you get what you pay for, because I didn't have no insurance. This is my very first mugshot. And as you can imagine, 83 arrests, I have a lot of mugshots. This is my very first. I compared this with a young lady of mine that I had been mentoring over the last few years. I have a good relationship with the police department now. And, you know, and so I'm very good friends with this detective. He was a street officer. He was one of the officers that used to arrest me all the time. So he calls me up one night, around 11:45 one night. He said, "Hey, Tony, how you doing? This is John Lee." And I would say, "Yeah, what's up?" He said, "I want to know if you can come down to the detention center, the booking unit." And I was like, "Hell no. You just don't call somebody up and say, come to jail." I was like, is the budget really that bad where y'all just call people and say, "Can you just get a photo of yourself and come on down to the lockup unit and lock yourself in?" I said, "John, I don't think I'm going to be able to do that. I have never been that well I would turn myself in. I'm just sorry." He said, "No, you don't understand. We have Vicky here, and I know that you've been doing some work with her. I know she's a trauma survivor. She's very distressed. Can you come down and assist us? Help us. We'll help her." And I said, "Okay." But I had to go. If she was there, she needed me. So I'm driving my car. I'm like, "Please don't let this be a setup." And when I got there, I was watching her. She was so upset. This was her first arrest, and she was so upset. She was crying, and she just couldn't even control herself or manage her feelings. So I compare her first arrest to my first arrest. Even at a young age, I don't look like I was distressed at all. I said, maybe I thought somebody would ask me, "What happened to you?" instead of, "What is wrong with you? Why do you keep coming back? Why you can't get it together?" Maybe finally somebody might say, "What happened to you?" And I'll be able to get the help I need. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about being re-traumatized in the multiple systems I've been in. This is my personal story in the systems I've been in. This is not a personal attack to anybody in their profession. Please understand that. But I'm going to tell it like it is. But please don't take it personal. This is my own personal story back then. I don't know what's going on in their system now. I'm from Annapolis, small town, not far from here. 25 miles from here, maybe. I always say we're an inch above Mayberry. We have one police department. It's the type town where, you know, the police officer that is arresting you, that used to arrest me, his father probably arrested my father, and his grandfather probably arrested my grandfather. You know, everybody know everybody. And sometimes the officer was often brutal because they figured they knew everything about you. And I had made this one particular time, I made a deal with these two guys. And the deal was, they had this big bag of crack. And I said, "If you give me some crack, I'll perform these sexual acts for you." By the time we got around the abandoned building where all this was supposed to take place, they started talking among themselves. And when they cornered me, they said, "You're going to do this, 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 and this, and we're not going to give you anything." And after they made me do everything they said I was going to do and more, they beat me, they stomped on me, they spit on me, and they left me there. So when I was able to finally get up, I was beat up, bloody, beat up very bad, and I was coming from around the building. And I seen a police standing against his cruiser, and he said, when he seen me, his face lit up. He said, "Miss Cain, well, we've been looking for you." Because I had a failure to appear warrant out for an open container charge. I didn't go to court for it. But I'm limping over to him, but I turned slightly to point out the two guys on the corner that's laughing to let them know that they just did this to me. He reached out, he grabbed my arm, threw it around my back, threw me against the cruiser, and broke my nose over top of everything else. And I said, they really just couldn't get past the way that I looked. Maybe the way that I smelled or what they believed me to be. She's just a crackhead, crazy person. They never really stopped to listen. I was a 30-day repeat offender. Every 30 days I was going in and out of the system, whether it was mental health or correction, every 30 days. And this one particular time I went to the correctional facility and I said, "I'm pregnant." And they said, "Yeah, Cain, whatever." They put me in a holding cell with two women. So when the nurse came down to do the medical intake, she took my urine sample and she took theirs too. Don't know why, but she did. A day or so later, she came back. She said, "You're not pregnant, but you do have a urinary tract infection." So I said, "No, I really think I'm pregnant." She said, no, we got the test results. So they sent me in to see the doctor who prescribed me a narcotic pain reliever and an antibiotic. And at this time in this facility, if you don't take medications prescribed by the doctor, they put you in what they call isolation until you're stabilized on your medication. We call it the hole, and I didn't want to go on the hole, so I took the pain reliever for the pain I didn't have and an antibiotic for the infection that they told me I had. I got up, I was in pain one night, and I was feeling really bad, and I got up one morning to go bathroom. When I squat to use the commode, my baby head came out. I had been 5 months pregnant. They shackled me to the gurney, shackled me down to the gurney. My baby was unable to fully abort. Only the head came out, and it was stuck. And they allowed me to lay on the gurney, stretched out in that position for 3 hours before someone assisted me. The reason why I know it was 3 hours because this escorting officer told the nurse, I'm going to be relieved in 3 hours. It wasn't until that relieving officer came, pulled back the sheet, screamed, pulled the doctor over, and the doctor called the nurse, they yanked and pulled, and I could hear them throw my dead baby into a metal bucket. It was suggested that I stay at the hospital to get some intravenous fluids and antibiotics to prevent infection, but the lieutenant at detention said, we don't have the manpower to babysit her. Send her back here. We see her in our infirmary. I was taken back to the detention center. They never seen me in the infirmary. Put in my old cell. 2 days later, I passed out from hemorrhaging and fever because of a bad infection. I had to have an emergency DNC operation. I tell you this horrible story for one reason. So often people come back and forth into our system. And we already made up our mind about it. Oh, they're just manipulative or attention-seeking. They're just looking for some attention. No one ever give us more credit. To say, maybe she know more about herself than we're allowing her to. Maybe we should retest her. Maybe we're wrong. Maybe we should take another look at this. It could have been prevented. Do we have any public defenders here? Oh, Lord. How many? I can run from 2. Again, this is my own personal story. In Anne Arundel County, we call them public pretenders. Because if you were incarcerated leading up to your court trial date or in a mental health institution, you never seen your public defender until the morning of court. And when you walk in, they will have a file. Nothing will be in the file, but on the front it will have your name, your age, your race, and how many kids you had. And they'll go, Miss Cain, they don't even know what you look like. And around my 40th arrest, all of my charges are associated with my drug addiction, my alcoholism, and my mental health state. Around my 40th arrest, the state is reading off my record. Possession, paraphernalia, prostitution, possession, paraphernalia, possession. So the judge says, well, does this young lady have a drug problem? My public defender, do you have a drug problem? And I was like, yeah. And the judge asked, has she ever had treatment? And I was like, no. See, I knew there was a clinic somewhere in the world called Betty Ford that's supposed to help you with substance abuse and alcoholism and all that, but I thought you kind of had to look like Betty Ford, and I had Betty Ford money to go, and that wasn't me. I didn't know there was treatment for people like me, so the judge said, well, can we try to get this young lady some help? So the state was like, you're the judge, you're the judge, is on you. So the judge said, well, let's court order her to a 28-day program. I do not know what your 28-day programs are like in your state or even if you have 28-day program. I've been in a lot of 28-day programs, and after 16 years of addiction, even longer for alcoholism back then, it was just enough time for me to get some rest and figure out how I'm going to get high again. And when I would walk into these programs, they would show us, they would give us rules and regulations. It took us a whole week to tell us what we better not do. And around the second week, they would show us a diagram. They would tell us what kind of drugs are out there, but they would tell us the natural form, like opium and cocoa leaves and all of that. And around the beginning of the third week, they show us diagrams of how people make homemade utensils to get it in their system. Now, the films that are approved to be shown in the 28-day programs I've been in were films of people getting high. Yeah, well, that helped. And by the time you're ready to graduate, they tell you how it affects your brain. This was after 16 years of drug addiction. I know what kind of drugs are out there. I know which ones I like best. I know how to get it in my system. That's why I'm in your drug program. And who cares how it affects my brain? Please, somebody just tell me how to live a different life. But when I got there, the first 20-day program, when he court ordered me to that, when I walked through the door, there were people just like me. We were beaten up and we were filthy and they had the same stories that I did. And just like I'm telling you folks this evening, I told them everything about myself. They say, have you ever been a victim of sexual assault? Yes, I've been raped and beat so many times I can't even put a number to it. Have you ever been a victim of domestic violence? Yes, every relationship I had was violent. And I would tell them all these things, and I was assigned a male counselor. And people go, oh my goodness, but if you don't get anything else out of my presentation, please get this, don't miss it. When we come to programs, don't miss this, we come with the hopes that you know what you're doing. Half of us don't even have the willingness to live. We don't have the strength to even hold our head up sometimes, and there's a lot of shame and guilt, and we hollow through your doors, and you're the experts. We expect you to know what you're doing. So if you tell me this man is the best thing for me, who am I to argue? I couldn't get it together. You say he the best thing for me, who am I to argue? So I was and truthfully, if you had said that cockroach in the corner with that clipboard, Tony, is your drug counselor, I've been like, sir, can you speak up a little louder so I could take notes? Because that's how desperate I was to get help. So I was always the one raising my hand and sharing. And on one-on-one, I shared the things that affected me most in my life. I graduated this program, the first time I ever graduated anything in my life. And I went to aftercare the first Sunday, and everybody was coming back. The second Sunday, I was able to get a ride there. I couldn't get a ride back. My drug counselor offered me a ride back, but he made a pit stop in the wooded area to rape me face down. And when he pulled me up by my hair, he says, no sense telling anybody, just a crackhead, you're just a prostitute, you're nothing. And he threw me to the ground. I'm not making excuses for this man because since I've been in recovery, he has been held accountable for his action. What I'm saying is maybe, given my history with violence and men assaulting and beating me all my life, when you look at the prevalence of trauma, up to 90% of incarcerated girls has been exposed to sexual, emotional, and physical abuse. You could automatically assume everybody's been abused. Maybe a male counselor wasn't the best thing for me after all. I love these assessment tools we come up with, and we check those boxes off, but it's never translated into anybody's treatment plan, and it's never explored. And we're never treated like an individual according to our own individualized trauma. See, we're labeled rape victim, yeah. But you better believe the same person that raped me probably didn't rape her. And if that's the case, what she remembered from her assault, I might not remember. We might remember totally different things. And if that's the case, our triggers will be different. If that's the case, shouldn't our management be different? Shouldn't our treatment be different? She might need different tools to help her to manage than I will, to help her triggers. We're so often labeled as only we can be treated according to our own individualized trauma. And these assessment tools that we like to staple in the front of a file, and we fold the file and we put in, and the only time we pull it out is when we got to write a report on what we did wrong. It could have been prevented. I was that angry, out of control, mental patient and inmate. I did all of my time on lock. I brought it to the door every time. And I was always put in restraints or in seclusion. One of the worst things you can do to somebody that's a victim of neglect and abandonment is put them in the room, shut the door, and walk away. See, because the issues with my mother was always triggered. How she would leave us in a house, in a room at days at a time, and she would leave us, then when she would come back days later and give us food and treat us like this is how you're supposed to be treated. See, now because nobody has helped me to identify, address, or treat my trauma, and now I'm triggered, I don't know what to do with it. I do the only thing I know to do, and that is to tap into my survival mode. And my survival mode has always told me to fight, because I didn't know there was any other way. So when someone comes with their tray of medication, their tray of food, I smack it out in my face. And yes, sometimes somebody got hit with the tray, so now they're calling a code. and people are running towards my room, usually men, and they're throwing me down to the ground. Do you truly understand what I'm saying? You're restraining a rape victim, somebody that has been held down and raped multiple times, doing more harm, causing more trauma. Not intentionally, I know. But over and over again, because we don't ask what happened to you. Always over-medicated. I was a drug addict. I appreciated the free high. I did. I wasn't complaining. Thank you very much. But for bipolar disorder, I was given Thorazine, Ativan, and lithium at the same time. Therapy, please somebody help me hold my head up so I can wipe the drool out the corner of my mouth. Taking me even further away from the healing and recovery process. I was having kids as a result of rapes and prostitution. And the Department of Social Services rightfully taking my babies as I gave birth to them. But I found out a little later that they try to reunite you with your kids if they're safe or if you do certain things and you be successful at it. When I would try to visit my kids, they said, didn't you just get out of jail? Aren't you on psychotropics? No one ever had hope for me. My kids were put into the adoption process almost immediately. They petitioned it almost immediately. This is me in 94. For 19 years, I lived underneath a bridge. I ate out of a trash can. I wasn't allowed to go in anybody's house. In the wintertime, my sister would sometimes throw a blanket out to me. And that's how I lived for 19 years, sleeping in bus depots or underneath a bridge or abandoned buildings for 19 years. I put this one in for two reasons. One, because out of all my mugshots, it's the only one I'm distressed. I said, yeah, that was a perfect time for intervention. And another, for 19 years living on the street, I had like really nice teeth. That technique that I developed at age 9 stuck with me, even when I lived underneath a bridge. They released a film about my life in last April 2010. The camera crew followed me for 20 months. Wherever I went, I had a camera crew. Wherever I went, in the morning, they would ring my doorbell and they would follow me around for 20 months. And of course, I took them, they did site locations in Annapolis to find out what they want to put in the film. And my toothpaste and toothbrush was still up there on a little ledge. You know, I said it's probably the one thing that kept me alive. It's the only thing I had control in my life and was consistent. And it became my soothing technique. Didn't do anything else, but I had to brush my teeth. Well, I ended up down at Maryland Correctional Institution for Women. And I was pregnant again. And I was terrified I was about to lose another baby. And I just didn't know how I was going to live through losing another child. And they told me about this program called Tamar's Children. They said it works on your trauma. I said, well, I don't know what that is. I probably got it. Your addiction. I said, well, that's a given. Your mental health and you recover. And you keep your baby with you. So I sent out a request to the warden to go to this program. And you had to be eligible for parole to go. And I just so happened to be in prison for violation of parole. And when you violate, they really don't want to give it back to you. But the Tamar team, when they came down to visit, to interview other pregnant inmates, they were always calling me out of my housing unit. They said, you're a prime candidate for our program. I said, I want to come, but they said no. They said, well, you don't have enough time, Tony. You have to have at least 14 months, no more than 3 years. You're going to be released in November. I said, well, miss, I'm going to have my baby in August. Even if I could find somebody to keep my baby until November, what am I going to do, take underneath the bridge with me? And I said, well, wait a minute, I have to go to court for one more charge. What if I go to court and make sure I get enough time? Yeah, that sounds simple, right? So they took this back to the warden, and the warden said, if Miss Cain going to court and asks for time for this charge, it was a finable charge, I'm going to find a way for her to go to this program. So the court morning, I'm all excited. The night before, I'm excited. I can't even sleep because I'm going to go to court and get me some time. I'm so excited. And in the morning, they handcuffed me to this young lady. You know, they handcuffed me to her. And the whole time she had my arm like this because, you know, when we go to court, we become very religious people. Everybody on the van in prayer mode and singing gospels. Amen. Jesus. And we going, the same people that cussed me out the night before, but that's cool. We're on the van. Everybody has a rosary on. Nobody knows what the rosary is actually for, but it got a cross at the end. That's good enough. And thank goodness for the prison ministry to give us those little pocket Bibles that's small enough to put in our pockets for court. So we get to the courthouse, and I'm all excited. I'm excited. I'm getting to the courthouse, and I'm going to get me some time. And when we get in the holding cell, I yell out, I said, "Who's the sitting judge today?" And when they yelled out who my judge was, I could have passed out. I've been trying to get in front of this judge for years because he do not like to give out time. When I need time, I get this man. And everybody giving high five in the cell. I'm like, let me hold that rose. Can I wear your rosary? I'm like, jeez. I was in my 8th month of pregnancy. I didn't have time to postpone, and I knew if I gave birth in prison, I would never get my daughter back, given my history with domestic violence. So I stepped out on faith, because I do have faith. So didn't have time to tell my public defender that I can ask for time, because he never came to see me. So I'm stepping in front of the judge. He said, "Miss Cain, you here for CDS paraphernalia." They caught me with the crack pipe, not the crack, just the pipe. It's a finable offense of $500. How long you been down MCIW? I said 5 months, Your Honor. And he said, "This is a waste of state's time and the state's money. She can't pay. She's already in prison. I'm just going to close the case." I said, "Wait a minute." I said, "Sir, I need you to give me time." He said, "I don't know if you understand this." I said, "Sir, I do." I said, "Sir, I do understand. But if I'm a repeat offender, sir, you can give me up to 2 years." He looked at the state shakes her head. He said, "Is she a repeat offender?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Miss Cain, don't help the state." So I walked out of there with an additional 2-year sentence on a verbal promise from the warden that she allowed me to go to this program. But what did I have to lose if she changed her mind? She did. She allowed me to go to this program. And when I walked through the doors to Tamar Children, somebody greeted me and said, "I'm so glad you're here." After 19 years of living in the streets and people looking down at me, spitting on me, kicking me, and shaking their head in disgust, somebody told me they were glad to see me. And when I met with my trauma therapist, she said, "We're going to work with the trauma that first affected you in your life, and that is the neglect and abandonment issues that I had with my mother." And after talking about it in therapy and crying about it, I came to the realization one day, hold up. I am an adult now. My mother's lack of love for me is who she is, and it doesn't define my character. And I was able to begin healing in that area. Then I went to one session. She said, "Now we're going to talk about all the times you were sexually, mentally, and physically abused." I said, "Miss, I've been raped and beat so many times, I don't remember all that. I can't even put a number to them." I said, "How do you expect me to remember any of this?" She said, "We're going to talk about the times you do remember." So I talked about the footsteps. I talked about if they were a relative, if they did it more than one time, if my sisters and brothers made too much. What happened when I tried to tell my mother? I talked about all these details. See, now I'm in a safe environment. These things are no longer happening to me. So I was able to begin healing in that area. Then I went to one session. She said, "Now we're going to talk about your kids." And I said, "No." I said, "How do you expect for me to heal from something that continues to give me pain every day I wake up?" I said, "Miss, I got 4 kids walking this earth. I wouldn't know if I walked past them on the street. I know nothing about them. I don't know if they're alive, if they're well. How do you expect me to heal from that?" She said, "You do. You just don't do it by yourself." And I would become so distressed when I talk about my kids. I always cross my arms and I would just rock and cry and cry. And my therapist, who's always sat beside me, never sat across the desk from me, always sat beside me. When I rocked, she rocked. She masked my emotions and she followed my lead. And we was able to go through a grieving process for 4 kids at the same time. So I was able to begin healing in that area. See, people such as yourself was trying to give me tits and bits of information over the 19 years to help me to get clean, to help me to live a different life. I'll get some information here, bits and pieces all over. But I had so much trauma, so much pain and suffering in my life. The good information will only get surfaced. And it couldn't penetrate any of that trauma to get down there, to get rooted, so I can build a foundation so my belief system will change from I am nothing to I am somebody, and I can be anything I want in this world. See, when my belief system changed, my thought process changed. Thank you. And I started to make the best decisions in my life. And one of the best decisions I made was to go through a 1-year course into how to be a mother. 1 year. I went to a class to learn to be a mother. See, I knew how to give birth. That was easy enough. But sometimes when you come from an abusive household, it takes work not to be abusive. And I wanted to be loving and nurturing and give my daughter the things that I crave. And I can tell you, I was able to form a secure attachment. And I do a lot of travel. And now my daughter said, Mommy, just don't forget my special surprise. I spend a fortune in guilt gifts. I do. And I had to go. The first time I had to leave it for a period of time, they sent me to this really, really awful state. And for 12 days, what was it? Oh, Hawaii. And I felt so bad because the time difference was 6 hours for Eastern time. I couldn't read her bedtime story. It was just throwing me off. I cried myself to sleep every night and everything. I'm in Hawaii. Oh, my God, oh, my God. And I felt so bad I brought her a gift for every day I was there. But when I left there, I had to go to Wyoming. There is no gift shops in Wyoming. But I had so much fun in Wyoming. I had more fun in Wyoming, yes, than I did in Hawaii. But I had so much fun. So when I got home, I gave my daughter her Hawaii gift. I said, Mommy got you something from Wyoming. It was a key ring, and it has a porcelain doll at the end. Very pretty. They put it in tissue paper and everything. She was 3 years old. I said, she never figured out. When she opened it up, and she said, Mom, why did you buy me a key ring when I don't have any keys? Forget being smarter than the 5th grade. I wasn't smarter than the 3-year-old. So she does have a secure attachment. I'm no longer on medication. I'm not saying that some people will not need medication. But in my case, and in most trauma survivor cases, all those things that people was trying to fix on the outside, like the substance abuse, the homelessness, losing the kids, and all these mental health diagnoses that they were giving me, they were just symptoms of my trauma, being as though since my trauma has been identified, addressed, and treated, I have not even had the desire for drugs and alcohol. I'm no longer homeless. My daughter's not in the system. So once my trauma truly was addressed, and I was able to get the healing process going, all those things that people was concerned about over the 19 years just fell away, and it wasn't a concern anymore. I'm an advocate. Go back in the same streets, reaching down, helping people up, encouraging, inspiring hope, and encouraging change, and really trying to help them in any kind of way. Not as much as I used to because of my demanding schedule. It's funny, y'all, you seen the mug shots, right? It's funny how I get emails and I get invited to events like governor's mansions, like the White House, like all these wonderful places I get invited to. Once upon a time, I couldn't even walk across their lawns. Today, I get all these emails. Would you be able to come to this event? We really want to invite you. And then if I don't RSVP, because I kind of ignore it, they'll call me. I said, what a difference it makes when you start asking what happened to you instead of what's wrong with you. I resigned from the PNA, the PAMI Council, because I have a very demanding schedule now, and I just can't. I think their members should give them more than I'm able to give them. I'm a homeowner. 6 years ago, I lived underneath a bridge. Thank you. 6 years ago, I lived underneath a bridge. I'm going on 4 years owning my own property. My great-grandparents lived in the projects. Nobody has ever owned their own home. Do you truly see where I'm going with this? They treated my trauma with the hopes that I'll stay out their system, and it worked. But I often wondered, did they even think that treating my trauma was going to break that intergenerational curse in my family? Thank you. My daughter doesn't know what it's like to live in a project. She doesn't know what it's like to wait for somebody to hustle to get some food. She doesn't know what it's like not to be hugged and loved. The cycle in my family has been broken. She's going to give her children what she's given if it's true about learned behavior and conditioning environments. So we start to look at a different generational path, all because somebody finally asked, what happened to you? And was prepared to hear the answer. My daughter goes to the Key School, one of the best private schools in Maryland. So yes, I'm a homeowner. My daughter's in private school. I'm living the American dream. I'm in debt. Thank you. I can go on and tell you all the wonderful things that has happened to me just over the last 6 years since I smoked my last piece of crack and slept underneath the bridge and walked out of prison for the last time. I give lectures at Yale Law School. The former governor of the state of Florida proclaimed my birthday as Trauma-Informed Care Day in the state of Florida. Cincinnati has proclaimed, the mayor proclaimed June 30th as Tonier Cain Day. I'm known in 100 different countries for the work that I do. I get invited. I was second keynote to President Obama, the first African-American president. They told me I was going to spend the rest of my life in jail or I was going to die in the street, that I'll never amount to anything. And I'm telling you tonight, not so. Not so. And I can continue to tell you all these wonderful things, but it's not about me. I can tell you how I have 2 companies of my own. I can tell you how I'm the director running a national center. I can tell you all these great things, but it's not about me. It's about those that you're still serving. This is a photograph of me at my graduation from the trauma program. You see, I slimmed down a little bit. This is my graduation day in 2005. What if at age 9 somebody recognized my trauma just like they did 6 years ago? 6 years ago somebody asked, what happened to you? And was prepared to hear the answer. And everybody had to deal with me, understood the prevalence of trauma. Gave me the tools I need to manage my own feelings and my triggers. Isn't it possible that this child become this woman without all those incarcerations, with all those, that medication, all those psychotropics, losing my children? Isn't it possible, it's only somebody asked at age 9 the same thing they asked 6 years ago. I could have become the woman I am today, or went even further. Or this mother. That's my baby. And yes, she flossed. She's a flosser. We was at the dentist a couple months ago, and she got a perfect visit. 6 years old, perfect visit at the dentist. It's my baby. I'm so proud. I had one more question to ask you. Please look at the mugshot on the screen. If this woman was yet again in your system, 83 times you see me come in and out of your system, 83 times. Crack addict, alcoholic, mental health consumer. 83 times, you know, you go, here she come again, she's back. My question to you today, this evening, is this. Would you be able to look at her and see me today? Would you be able to see a leader, an expert? The government called me to the table and said, Tony, what do you think we should do? Do we truly believe in the people that we serve? I can tell you this, if you're serving them and you don't believe in them, how can you expect them to believe in themselves? How? You don't have the right to deem someone hopeless. Don't give yourself that. It's not yours. Where there's breath, there's hope. When a paramedic come out to treat somebody in medical distress, the first thing they do is check for vital signs. Even if they have no sign of life, they start to work on that person to resuscitate them to life. And they do it tirelessly, try to revive that person and resuscitate them. Why do we give up so easy to looking at the people that's walking around obviously still breathing? Why do we give up so easy? Why don't we help to resuscitate their lives? Where there's breath, there's hope. Treat the trauma. You'll get different results. I promise you that. I am your evidence. Thank you. Thank you.